What's up, everybody? It's Jay Cal. This is the Alliance blog, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Like I said, my name is Jay Cal, and we try to do different interviews every week. We try to get different faces, talk to different people. And of course, the person that I'm going to bring on this week is quite the accomplished wrestler. He's wrestled all over the world. And when I say that, I emphatically mean it. He's been everywhere. WXW, Rev Pro, Pro Wrestling Noah, New Japan, AAA, the Crash Lucha Libre, GCW, really all over the United States, all over the world. And it's quite the honor to have Ninja Mack join us this week on the Alliance Guys podcast. Ninja Mack, what's going on, my friend? How are you today?
Yo, Alliance Blog. How are you guys doing today?
Good,
What's
brother.
going on, Jay?
Good, man. First and foremost, I've been thinking about your style in the ring for some time now. I was telling you this the last time I saw you, that being able to see you at GCW and see you wrestle against Starboy Charlie, your style is so innovative, and it's not like anything I've ever seen before. And what you're able to do in the ring, a layman might say, "Well, that's lucha libre," but I'm like, no, it's more than that. It's more than lucha libre, and I can't define what your style is. So I'm going to ask you to try to define what do you consider your style of wrestling?
It's gotta go back to just my parents and the athleticism they brought upon me. My dad was an amateur wrestler growing up. My mom was into a bunch of variety sports, but I grew up doing amateur wrestling and gymnastics. That kind of blended all together, and then I love football and baseball and basketball. Just growing up as a kid, I was anything to do to go play sports. I wanted to play everything, and just kind of blending it all together with all the athleticism. You ever see those movies like Tron, where they're doing the acrobats and the martial arts across the screen and stage? It's not gymnastics, but it's not martial arts. It's actually a sport called tricking. It's a very underworld sport that it hasn't really got the popularity it deserves yet. But that's what you see a lot of in the circus and a lot of the movies and stuntman work. It's defined by the sport of tricking, and that would be the best way to describe my in ring abilities, to be able to see the tricking. It's not just doing tricks; it's just the sport of tricking.
And I guess that's a concept that it sounds like it's made for pro wrestling, but it's something that I haven't seen a lot of before. Because in your clip, especially, the one I think it was in New Japan where you do the backflip out of the ring and then you just keep going and going, going to the entrance of the venue. I show that to my friends and like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, no, this is the greatest thing, dude. And they're like, why is he backflipping so much? And I said, because he can. Who cares why he's doing it? He can do it, and that's amazing. Have
Well,
you?
just growing up, you got the Energizer Bunny was a big time part of me growing up. So I got some inspiration by the Energizer Bunny, and sometimes when you get some momentum when you're flipping like that, it's easier to just keep going instead of stopping and chasing the guy running away from you.
That I mean that's proof in the pudding, and I've seen that clip, go viral. I've seen it, not just on the New Japan socials, but I've seen it. Other people have used it to if pro wrestling's fake, then prove what's this, and you see all that stuff, and has that clip, has that gained notoriety for you? Has that helped get you bookings, or is it just something for you to laugh at instead of your friends?
No, it definitely helped. When I after Super Juniors, when I came back to the Indies, when you have a clip like that go very viral, people want to use you a lot more frequently. But I think also coming off of New Japan's Best of Super Juniors, I was gonna get used anyways. I have had a lot of people bring that up a lot more. It's definitely got a lot more notoriety. I think over on my Instagram alone, it's over 40 million views. I
Wow.
know, I know, I know. ESPN or Sports Center's TikTok and Instagram, it was like over 100 million views a piece. I think last week it repopped up with who was it? Tom Brady and Logan Paul going back and forth, and
Yeah, yeah.
it made it to some YouTube fitness channel. So I mean, it's popped up and people are using it. So I can only appreciate that people put it out there for me. And hey, it was Ninja Mack and Robbie X and that match doing it. Get us both over, guys.
That's awesome, and you know, in the currency of pro wrestling, eyeballs and attention are what trade. and being able to be seen by millions of people, even in a clip, I feel like that's only positive for your career. Um, and your career has been it's 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 kind of amazing to see all the places that you've come and gone. I mean, I was mentioning it right before you came on. Canada, the United Kingdom, Mexico, Germany, Japan, and I'm sure I'm missing some. But how are you able to go to all these places? I mean, is it just word of mouth? Are you flyering these guys? Are you sending them resumes, or like how is this happening? Because it seems like in such a short amount of time you've become such a zeitgeist in this moment where you're everywhere.
This is all after COVID, when the world kind of opened back up. The ninja character was born, and then since then, I've kind of just ridden the wave. I've never called anyone for a job. I've never asked anyone for a job. Everything's been word of mouth. Reach out to me through my Instagram, my Twitter. I don't mind my friends passing my number along to other promoters that want to reach out, as long as my friends trust them. They know that. So, all the traveling, all the shows. I mean, I've averaged close to 150 or more matches a year
Wow.
the last 3 years. And I'm, like I said, just trying to keep the grind going. So there's been times where I flew, like the Germany bookings. We flew over to Germany. We flew into Belgium. We're in Belgium one night. We're in Germany the next night. You're in France the next night. The next 3 days, I hit up the UK. So you can knock out a couple of the countries in a week like that. But I mean, even just the last, not this last year, but the 2 years before that, I was primarily in Japan, just with Noah and New Japan. So I was stationed there. And then being in Texas, Mexico, and the luchador scene's so big over here. Getting down to Mexico is never an issue. So, but the more I can travel, the more I can experience and see all these other wrestlers, the better I can get. And that's my end goal with all the traveling and wrestling, is just to make myself the best I can be.
That's quite a lofty goal. It's just being the best version of you. I think that's something that I pursue daily, and I'm not even entering. I just want to be the best version of me. Your journey started off differently than most pro wrestlers. You spent some time in the circus before you stepped into a pro wrestling ring, and as a layman, I look at that and go, "Wow, that seems like such polar opposites." But the more I kind of sit here and think about that and digest that, I feel like that's it kind of seems like that might be the best way to get into pro wrestling. Tell me about your experience and how you went from the circus to the pro wrestling ring.
Oh, I was pretty good in school with grades. I wasn't too bad, but it wasn't something. I was very into sports, and I wasn't. I'm not saying I wasn't interested in school, but it didn't capture me like just sports and doing something. So at 18, I was very hesitant of, like, should I go to college? Should I try do Olympic gymnastics? Should I really pursue a college scholarship in wrestling? And just what became available is I ended up actually trying out for the Vegas for Circus LA, and they
Okay.
actually took me in. And actually, funny thing about that before that is, what really got me interested in the circus. I mean, the other stuff before, but I actually tried out to be a Power Ranger.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
I couldn't even, because I was into the martial arts. I was into all the flips with the gymnastics, and I watched WWF growing up. It was just something I never really considered like getting into,
Yeah.
uh, just just because I didn't have access to it. I didn't know it was possible. But one I did have a bunch of friends that were stuntmen people. They worked with the circus, and I actually sent in a audition and a tryout to be a Power Ranger. I'm trying to remember what season off the top of my head. This would have been back in 2009.
Okay.
But I made the first round cuts, and after you made the first round cuts, if you weren't in New Zealand, you had to fly yourself to New Zealand to continue the next part of the process. And just graduating high school, I didn't have 3,000. It was like 2,500 on a ticket, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know the whole investment that it would have paid off if you would have just done it, because I was so new to everything. So I skipped that opportunity, but I was able to seize an opportunity in Vegas, which my parents could afford $100 ticket for me at the time, to go try out for Circus LA. So I get into their system back in Vegas. Kind of like I don't know if people have ever done the NXT tryout page. When you get into the NXT tryout page and the recruitment page, you send in all your info and then you send in your YouTube clips. It's very similar with the Circus Select. Once you get in, you get all your info in. If they accept you, you send in all your YouTube links, what you want to you should in the NXT you show matches and highlight clips and promos. In the circus you kind of show what your abilities are, what kind of act you want to perform or you want to pursue. So you're just sending different clips of it, and then I get in, you get a couple jobs here, kind of like the indie circuses before you get into Circus LA. I worked with a lot of Sam Trigo production where we went down to Mexico. I was in Venezuela for a couple months.
Wow.
That was, and then just kind of like wrestling, you learn your hot seasons if you're not actually on tour or signed to like a big Circus LA at Bellagio for an independent show. You learn the hot season. So I was able to work in the summer and Christmas break, and kind of I did go back to college to get a degree. And then my last tour on a circus job, I actually met an indie wrestler that was one of the guys doing one of the Chinese pulls, and he said he did a little bit of independent pro wrestling. Nick, I'm trying to remember his last name, but it was really long ago. But he told me that I was a good flipper. I had good like air awareness, acrobatic. I
Yeah.
grew up. We always talked about WWF on the road and who your favorites were. And he said, if you really wanted to get into it, you need to either be West Coast, you need to be in Texas or in Florida. That's where your main schools are. And I was like, well, Texas, I'm in Houston. So is there anywhere to reach out? And he said, hey, you got the best school in Houston at Booker T's Reality Wrestling. I was
Yeah.
like, that's cool. I literally left the circus. I think I flew in on a Thursday. I got in touch with Kevin, who is the general manager slash production manager over there for Booker T's Reality Wrestling.
Yeah.
He got called him on that Friday, and they were doing one of their first fantasy camps on that Sunday. And I did that fantasy camp for Booker T's Reality Wrestling and never went back to the circus.
That's incredible. And yeah, Booker T's Reality Wrestling. A lot of my audience is familiar with that. Danny Limelight is currently their champion, and
Oh,
so
he's killing it over there, looking good too.
yeah, Danny's a friend of the show, and proud of what he's done and accomplished. And Zilla Fatu's been there. We've seen a lot of like Roxanne Perez and the WWE came from there, and they've had a lot of what's that?
I was saying, "Ooh's my brother."
Oh,
Fatu.
yeah. And a lot. I mean, there's a lot of positivity coming out of reality wrestling. And when we were talking previously, you had mentioned that you took your training there, and you knew like, okay, this is going to get me so far, but I need to learn lucha libre. And then you took that next step over the border into Mexico to train in lucha libre. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, well, at Booker's, he's gonna. They're very NXT TV style based, and they're,
Yeah.
they're gonna. I think that's the best foundation and fundamentals you can start and learn from. But at the time, when you get put into a faction, kind of like with the TV styles, I was only ended up wrestling once every 2-3 months because
Okay.
you're running a show once a month, and that even though they were running a show and they're doing 10 matches because they got to get three episodes of TV, you're lucky to wrestle twice in 3 months. So to me, already being a little older, already being like I've already performed in front of 8, 10,000 people in circus shows, I felt the need that I needed to just get more reps in because with the circus, I was doing the performances 8, 10 times a weekend, and that's why we were so consistent. And no one's ever messing up in the circus where we're going. But I felt like with wrestling, you can practice all you want, but until you're in front of 50, 100, 500, 10,000, 30,000 people, like the reps aren't the same. So when I switched and I felt like I had so much access to lucha libre in Houston, I was able to wrestle lucha 8 to 10 times a week, and from Houston to Dallas to San Antonio. And I was literally I would do 2 or 3 I would drive up to Dallas on Friday, do 2 or 3 shows. If they had an early show, we would stay the night, do the early show. If not, head back. 2 or 3 shows in Houston or San Antonio, and then it was so much easy access. And then just getting reps in. I think in my first month of just kind of doing the lucha shows and tours through Texas, I was at 30, it was like 25 or 30 matches. And I think I did like 6 matches for Burger T over the first year. So just beneficially, like just with the reps alone, because I didn't know Lucha at the time. I was athletic enough to keep up with everyone, but I was still learning the terminology. I was still kind of learning the luchador rules. But after I was able to do all those little tours, a very good friend of mine, Pedro Ortega, or Mr. Lowrider, Mr. 420, he brought me down to Mexico. He's got a lot of connections down there, and then we kind of just ran some indies down in Mexico. Just kind of got more reps in.
That's awesome. And I saw that you have competed for IWRG in Mexico. You did some matches with AAA down in Mexico, and of course, most recently, the Crash. Tell me about the experience wrestling in Mexico. Obviously, there's, for native English speakers, there's a language barrier. Do you speak Spanish, and are you able to communicate with your opponents and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a fluent speaker, but just growing up in Texas and like I said, being around a bunch of my Mexican friends, I love the culture, I love the people. I've learned enough to where I can get around down there. And then with my circus jobs, I lived in Mexico for 6 months previously. Venezuela, I lived in Los Corocos for a little bit, so I was able to experience a lot of that beforehand, and then like I said, obviously just growing up in Houston and Texas, like I said, we're so mixed race down here that it's very multicultural, and it's already a good blend. And then it helps that my father worked at Fiesta my whole life. I don't know if you know Fiesta. Fiesta is like the Kroger's
Okay.
of it's like the Kroger's for Mexicans, and I grew up in a lot of the Fiestas, and like I said, they're very good people. I love the culture. It's the athleticism, their athleticism compared to independent athleticism is a whole different world. That lucha scene compared to American wrestling, their athleticism, their cardio is off the wall. uh I mean, the wrestling down there is crazy. It's fast paced, and it goes well with my style because I'm very athletic and I can keep up, but it's a whole different world than doing indies here.
I can think back to when I saw you in San Diego for Baja Stars USA, and there wasn't so much a language barrier because you weren't saying anything, but the fans were booing you, and I'm kind of used to seeing you more as a face just from what I've seen, and you were able to roll with that, and you were getting heat, and it was funny because like again, you're wearing a mask, your face isn't emoting, but you were able to elicit a reaction out of the crowd, which to me was like that's great crowd work right there. And you didn't even say anything. You just the way you were gesturing with getting the fans upset with you and angry, and then you go in and do that backflip move and land it, and the crowd just pops. It's like they hated you, but that move were like, holy shit, this dude is such a stud. He's able to do this routine where he's doing backflips and do an elbow drop on the guys. It's amazing. And I was so like, not that I knew you very well, but I was so proud of you in that moment as a spectator. I'm like, you just worked that crowd so well. And then I saw you do the same thing and crash about 2 weeks later. So it's not something that was like a rare occurrence for you. You're able to work really well with that mask and still incorporate the crowd into your match. Do you find it difficult not being able to just do a facial and get a reaction from the crowd? And
Of
how hard
course.
is it to get that reaction while wearing a mask?
Well, luckily I didn't start off wearing masks full time, so I was able to actually have facials and presentations and really work on that at first. And then when you put on the mask, I become more vocal. You hear me doing the ninja screams and ahs and hey ah. I do that because you don't get the facials as much, so I'm very animated in the ring with the body motions just to
Nice.
express that, to cover up that I'm not able. Because even if you look a lot of the luchador masks, they're not just fully covered. I kind of went with a full covered mask where you can't see my eyes, you can't see even just my mouth. Where a lot of luchador masks, they have the holes in the eyes, the hole in the mouth. So even though you don't get to see their whole face, you still get the eyes, you still get the mouth expression. So I don't get a lot of that. So that's why you see me being very vocal or very animated with my stuff right now. Um, but I've always loved. I hate to say babyface as the good guy
Yeah, yeah.
because I've been deemed that because of my athleticism, and I'm pretty respectful where I go. But at the same time, I can read a crowd well enough that if there's three of us out there, we're all respected, and you need a little edgier of a cut person to come out and kind of kick you. Because the other thing is, you're not going to top me in the ring.
No.
Athletically, you're not going to do more than me. Most people won't. So I have that little bit of an edge I can always go back to pull it out if I need to. And like I said, just to get the crowd, I want the crowd to I want their emotions to ride a wave. I don't want them to all just cheer, yeah, y'all are the greatest, cool stuff, yeah, you're the greatest. No, I want to take them to the oohs and the yays and the oh fucks and the holy crap and then the oh. I want to. That's the job as a professional wrestler. Is not just to. If we all went out there and did a cool flip and did this, I mean, we're all the greatest wrestlers. But to me, I think it's can you make them ride that wave? Can you get them to can you get them to believe what happened? Can you get them to hate you, then like you, or like you and then hate you, or love you and then really hate you? And then when you capture those emotions, professional wrestlers, that's where you make your business as a professional.
I love that answer. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, so I do want to go to Japan with you real quick and talk about. Obviously, the lucha libre is a very different style of wrestling from puroresu. You're wrestling in Japan. You're wrestling for two of the biggest companies in Japan with Pro Wrestling Noah and then later New Japan. Tell me about the dynamic of working those two big promotions. Obviously, there's got to be a lot of pressure on you, and you're wrestling very far from home. The culture is different. The language is different. Everything is different. How does Ninja Mack adapt, and how do you succeed?
It's a very respect culture over there. I'm sure you hear that a lot. They got very yeah, if you go in there showing respect, they're going to show you respect back. It's pretty simple. And being the baby face coming in, it was very easy. And then, like I said, I'm a very respectful person naturally, so that was very easy to come in. The biggest challenge for me at first was like I grew up with Spanish, being in Texas, because I was so jumping into a luchador ring and a lucha scene wasn't too difficult. But luckily enough, going over to Japan, like I said, it was a whole new start to learning Japanese. But a lot of the Japanese wrestlers have some kind of English or broken English to get enough by.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot on my behalf, and also it helped me actually be humble and grow more because I had to rely on other people rather than kind of just trusting what I knew already by their translations. So you learn a little Japanese, and then the time I went over to Noah the first time in Japan, it was very not culture shocking, but I was one of the first gaijin, one of the first foreigners to come back after the COVID closure.
Right.
So because I had a work visa, tourist visas didn't come in and play for another 3 or 4 months. So it was only people with work visas. I went over there and I was maybe besides the other foreign wrestlers, there's only two at the time maybe. But when I was walking the streets, I was the only foreigner walking around at first and had to be masked up. That was very, very different compared to where you go over there right now and all the tourists are back and it's just flooded with everyone. But even at shows, when they first started doing shows, you had to be 2 or 3 seats apart, even if you bought tickets with someone, because they were still testing everything. And then you couldn't make a noise, so they said you can silently clap. And the big stick was when you were in Japan at the time, if you can make the audience gasp and when they're supposed to be quiet, that's how you know you got them. That's how you know you did well in your match. So that was something we always aimed to try and do while we were over there. And then as Japan opened up with all the COVID, you can actually hear the crowd. So those first 6 months were a little different, and the crowd's getting back into where they can start cheering and coming in, and then people started filling up. And I mean, from there, just 2 years of Noah to kind of roll into the Super Juniors for New Japan. New Japan, that's the biggest tournament you can do as a junior heavyweight. The very, very kayfabe on the juniors and the heavyweights over there. Where indies, we mix it over here a lot.
Right.
Over there, you got junior season, you got heavyweights. You don't really cross too often.
Very rarely.
Yeah. So it's a whole different culture, and they still treat it like a real sport. It's real kayfabe over there. Like I said, just the aspect and the respect level of it. I love it. I love that respect level over there. Like they got 2 locker rooms. If you're a good guy, you're in this locker room. If you're a bad guy, you're in this locker room. Don't cross over.
That's awesome. I love the dedication to kayfabe on that. I know we're running out of time, but I do want to ask you a few more questions. And one of them is like, because you've been able to wrestle all over the world, where was your favorite place to wrestle? And also the follow up to that is, who is your favorite opponent that you've had in the ring?
Ooh, you're asking tough questions, sir. Man, I mean, that's so hard because I would have to say Japan's probably my favorite place because I was not just there for a show, I was staying there consistently. Because, if you go to Germany, you go to France, or if I'm going to Mexico, I'm usually going for the weekend or a week.
Right.
Where these last tours in Japan, I spent my second year in my contract, I was there for 11 months straight. So, you're going to appreciate something a lot more when you're there more consistently. So I'd have to say Japan. And, if I had to say a favorite wrestler, man, I shout out to Dragonbane and Alpha Wolf.
Okay.
I love wrestling those two, and I actually wrestled them more in Japan than I did over here or in Mexico, just because we were all with Noah at the same time. But my match with Dragonbane got me seen by Noah. I love those two guys; they're phenomenal. I think probably the best tag team in the world. If people don't know, check out Dragonbane and Alpha Wolf at Pro Wrestling Noah. But as a singles competitor, man, I have to say either Hayata Alejandro from Pro Wrestling Noah or Hiromu. And if you're gonna make me pick an American, just because I'm back in the States, let me give a shout out to Dante Leon.
There you go.
Me and Dante had just to start off the Ninja Mack career coming out, and we had some battles, and we've had some epic matches from Loco to GCW. And I'm always ready to run it back. It's actually been a minute since we've had a match. It's maybe 2 years. So, hey, Vegas WrestleMania week. Anyone want to book me versus Dante Leon? I'm up for it if Dante's Leon. So,
all right. I know we got to go, and I do appreciate you for your time. I do want to encourage everyone to check out your social medias. They're all linked in the bio for the video description. But we know that this weekend you have bookings in Austin and then in Springdale, Arkansas, and then Houston, and then the week after that you're going to be in Philly.
And fourth rope. You know what's better than 3 ropes? 4.
You're gonna be wrestling. That's awesome because that's a very popular promotion. So hopefully we'll get to see some footage from that. And then you're gonna be out here in LA from the 3rd through the 5th. Am I right on that or
no? LA. So I got the 3rd and the 5th open, but LA. I'm flying out to LA on the 10th, and I will probably be LA until the 13th or 14th, and go straight to Vegas for Mania.
That's awesome. So, and then I encourage you guys, make sure you follow Ninja Mack. Wow, I had a stroke. I think I was reading the card. Ninja Mack. You can follow him on all the socials, and they're all linked in the video description. And it's a real pleasure to have you come on, man. I know time is precious, and I do appreciate you being on. If you ever have an opportunity down the road to come back on, we'd love to have you because I have so many questions to ask. But I do appreciate your time and best of luck and everything. And I just want to say, too, that I'd heard your name for a very long time and had not seen you wrestle. When I saw you at GCW, I was like, damn, that guy's good. Then I saw you at Baja Stars and thought, wow, he's really good. And then I saw you at the Crash, like, man, this guy might be one of my favorite wrestlers to watch right now. So I just want to throw that out for you. And good luck with everything. And we hope to catch up with you very soon.
I appreciate it, Jay. If you guys haven't done so, go follow the Alliance, guys. We need the followers, subscriptions, comments. We appreciate everything, all you listeners and followers, and you can bet that.
All right. Thank you so much, and best of luck, and we'll see you very, very soon, Ninja Mack. Thank you. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you, we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.